When y'all give me the thumbs up, we'll get going, make sure everybody's good. All right, thanks for being here today. We got several updates, a couple new things I want to share with you guys, looking to get some feedback for our community on a couple of the exciting projects. Just walked out of a meeting with about pickleball on the port. That's very positive. We feel like we're getting to the down to the end of our lease negotiations, and certainly ready to move forward. We actually already sent out the notification to folks neighboring the port, have gotten a postcard about a potential lease. We went ahead and did that. We were able to do that in terms of our timeline and felt comfortable enough moving forward to notify everybody around the port. So we're excited about trying to get that one in for a landing, and after our meeting this morning, we continue to feel that way. And so I would say our goal right now, can't commit to this, but our goal would be to have something finalized and in front of council in April for the pickleball for Warehouse 4 on the port. I know some of you were there at the skate park update. Just if you weren't, May 2nd at 3 o'clock is when our official grand opening will be scheduled for the skate park. So, and John Shell and Upward Intuition, the nonprofit, they're going to have an additional event, grand opening with special guests, and they're going to have a big celebration. That'll be on Saturday, June 10th. So more to come on that. And as I told all of the folks there, this is a project that a huge thanks to Parks and Rec, Public Works, Bear Construction is one of those rare projects that's on budget and ahead of schedule. So they do exist, and I'm proud to say that this is one of those. So it is rare, as anyone who's ever been involved in any project personally or professionally knows. It's not always on budget or not always on schedule. So we're excited we want to definitely point that out when it is. And so excited for that. We were going to have a Kiwanis Park Sensory Garden ribbon cutting today, but because of weather, we're going to reschedule. No new date on that yet. And a couple things that we're excited about that we're looking for community feedback on. First is the Pensacola welcome sign. We're hosting a design contest for artists for a 3D-dimensional welcome sign that probably will be seen by 100,000 plus folks every day, which is coming off the 3 Mile Bridge, where in years past, before the bridge construction, where that Five Flags Pavilion was, we'll get you guys the map and show you exactly where that's located. But as we discussed this, and this has been a discussion, again, a lot of work going into this with FDOT, partnering with our Public Works Department, is that instead of just picking 1 or 2 designs and hoping that it's something that the community would embrace, we've taken the extra step, which is always has a little complexity to it. Obviously there's a lot that goes into a contest like this, and a lot of thought and extra time, but we thought it was important, that this is going to be this really will be our entryway from Gulf Breeze, from Highway 98, and a lot of folks will see it. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to pick something that was reflective of what our community wants. So that contest, and Daryl Posalis is working with us on really what the base will be, the platform for, and we'll have all of that information. We will install it. The selected design will, and it'll be placed right there between Bayfront and Gregory. And all interested artists are encouraged to submit their designs for consideration. Submissions at cityofpensacola.com. And there's going to be an online application packet that outlines all of the things that all the artists would want to know in terms of size and materials, all that kind of stuff. So we will have more info on our website a little bit later today. But the submission deadline for that will be Wednesday, April 26th at 5 p.m. And we'll probably the plan for now is to make an announcement on the selection of which welcome sign we choose would be on May 1st. Would be our goal. So more to come on that and on that timeline. And then the second thing I'm excited about that we're having fun with is we have got 3 relatively new, I'd say in the last year, street sweepers, and we're going to do a naming contest for the 3. So it's something that a lot of communities are doing and embracing. We see how creative our citizens are, and I'm sure for better or worse, we'll have a lot of creativity on what these street sweepers are going to be named. So Deadline for submissions on that is April 14th at 5 p.m., and we're kicking that contest off today. And so, there'll be an online form on the city's website for consideration. So all the information, the make and models of these, the photos, all of that stuff will be up. So I'm excited to see how creative our Pensacolians get for our street sweeper naming contest. Let's see. We did close a section of Bay Bluffs Park, the boardwalk there at Scenic and Summit, for repairs, and we've got signage out. And of course, we're going to try to get those repairs done as quickly as possible. And as we mentioned last week, Malcolm Young, we're working with the tenant, Lighthouse Christian, on finding accommodations for their practices, everything that they need. They're using the gym for, and we've been in constant conversation with them. And I appreciate their willingness to be nimble here, and also the understanding that public safety and the safety of children and adults that are using that facility is the number one concern. And while it's inconvenient for us, and it's certainly inconvenient for them, we get that. We think this is the right thing to do, is to make sure that we get a real structural assessment on what's happening at Malcolm Young. What can we have people in there safely? And so we have fast-tracked that. Our public works team has fast-tracked that structural assessment to get that done as soon as possible. And not only the assessment, but also answering the simple question is, even if it is in disrepair, is it something that people can be in, and how serious is that damage? And that's, so we know it's old. We know that we've already made that assessment. We know it's old. We know that there's repairs that need to happen, but how dire are those repairs? We didn't want to wait a few weeks to find out. When we knew that, when we got our eyes on it, we wanted to make sure that we were as cautious as possible about a building that does certainly have some major repair needs. So both Bay Bluffs and Malcolm Young, we are working as diligently as possible to get those assessed and get those back open. Last thing, Good Friday closures. City, let's say offices and facilities for the city will be closed next Friday, April 7th, in observance of Good Friday, except for Osceola Golf Course and the Roger Scott Tennis Center. And last thing is it's not. We will have an update in the next couple of weeks on some potential improvements of the graffiti bridge. And we can't give you all those details yet, but as I had said before, and although I do appreciate the comedy on social media about us putting signs up and trucks still hitting the graffiti bridge, as we had said at the time, that's really phase one of our plan, that we were going to try to have something more tangible, more physical, that will help alleviate that concern. And again, another public works project that they're working really hard on. So more to come, but we continue to work on that, and so we're not done at no truck signs and being able to write tickets. As we said from the beginning, that's phase one, and then phase two will be something physical there that will help improve that process and make sure that we aren't getting any other trucks stuck under there. So we will, in the next week or two, we'll get you updated on that. But that's it for me. Any questions? Yeah.
On the naming contest, how's that going? Is it going to be purely a democratic process, or you have some veto power on some of the suggestions that are out there?
Well, yeah, I think there'll be a filtering process for professionalism, I would imagine. That'll probably be the first, we can't put any asterisks in replace of letters or anything. So we'll take a look at that. We'll have a good group together. I'm excited to see what we get, and how much feedback we get. And again, you can look around the country, whether it's snow plows or street sweepers. This is something that other cities are doing, and to help engage the community. Really, I mean, this is about. It's a fun thing for us, and we'll figure out names for these and stick them on the side. And I think it just again, it's a nice outlet of creativity for the citizens of Pensacola, and so I'm excited to see what we get. So yeah, I mean, we'll have a panel to help decide and make sure that we don't have anything that we're not allowed to have end up being the name. So.
On the Malcolm Young Gym,
Mm-hmm.
I guess with the building, what's the status of the lease with the Lighthouse Academy? Is this changed their status?
Well, once we had deemed the structure unsafe, obviously that's what has transpired, that has the lease in essence on hold at this point, or that we're not technically honoring that lease. But as with any, if one of our pieces, our property is deemed unsafe, we're going to take that step. So, but in terms of the future of that lease, we can't really speculate on anything until we get that full structural assessment that we're going to have, which again we fast track to make sure that we get done as soon as possible. That's going to answer a lot of our questions about where we go forward from here. Obviously, if it's there's major issues and people can't be in there, a 20-year lease that was signed a couple of years ago is not going to really make much sense for them or for us. So, but I don't want to speculate on that. We're going to let professionals get in there and figure out what's the condition of the building. And then we move forward. But I explained it to the Lighthouse folks. I mean, I think, look, it is a frustrating situation. But if something were to happen to someone in there, that it isn't just their building; it's our building. And so we can't. And they totally understand that, and are sympathetic to that. Is if it's your lease, but then something happens, no one says, well, that wasn't the city's building. It is the city's building. We gave out a lease, and if we feel like it's an unsafe building, we've got to take action. We can't sit back and, so I know it's frustrating for athletics there. I know it's frustrating for the school. That is not lost on me or on us. But I would way rather have those difficult conversations than a difficult conversation about someone getting hurt in there, or a child being injured, or something coming down from the roof. That is a way worse conversation to have than the difficult conversation of saying, hey, we've got to pull the plug on this for now until we know exactly what's going on. So that's the decision.
What was the condition that triggered closing it? What were the red flags that made you do this?
Yeah, well, there was conversations dating back to August, just about the general. It's an old building, so
Right.
there was email going back and forth between the leaseholder and the city about, here are some issues that we want to take a look at. At that time in the fall, there was nothing that suggested anything of grave danger or anything like that. But so, August, there was an email in August for that. Then we were going back and forth with Lighthouse in November about having them get some eyes on it and see, what those issues were, because part of the lease is that they're in charge of the maintenance of the building. But so once we got it later into the fall, and we thought that we wanted to get a look at it as well. I think I'll have to confirm these dates, but basically we had gone back and forth with them in November about saying, hey, get some eyes on it. Well, we hear from them on February 2nd that, hey, we haven't had an advance assessment. This is not they didn't have a full structural assessment, but they had someone come in there that said that they had concerns. So at that point, we brought our team in, and our public works team in, to get a look at it.
Is the roof? Is that the issue?
Well, I want to be careful about speaking to what the exact issues are, but I would say it's the roof and the beams, that's holding the building up. I would say those are the points of concern. I don't want to speculate as to, I'm not, I don't have enough expertise to speak to exactly that. But, you can see on the outside of the building, you can see the condition that is cause for concern. So February 2nd, they notified us that they had some concerns. We jumped into action. We had our folks go look at it, and we made the decision the other day to, again, not because something happened, not because something failed at this point, but we didn't, we just wanted to be overly cautious about this and make sure. So from this point forward, the plan is get this full structural assessment done as soon as possible, which is already in process right now. And from that point, we'll be able to make some determinations on what happens next. It could be that it's a aging building, but maybe the school can continue to use it in some way where we decide something long term, or we could say we're not going to have people in there anymore. I mean, that's what we got to find out, and we got to have professionals come in and take a look and make sure.
What's the status of the Streamline Boats lease?
So we notified Streamline that we on March 16th they were required to have a CO for the bill as part of their lease, and of course that hasn't happened. So we've notified them that we'd be terminating that, and at this point, the Warehouse 10 has no tenant. So we let them know per their lease, but on March 16th, and so that's where we're at.
Following up on Jim, what lessons would you take away from the Streamline Boats failure to execute to full business down there? I mean, looking back on it, Mayor, you had the luxury of not being the mayor while all this came together. What lessons would you take away from all that?
Well, I think there's a lot of complexity to all this. It's hard for me to speak to it because I wasn't, part of those negotiations on the front end. But these kinds of things happen. That you have big ideas about, wanting to get something together. I'm sure the group was well intended, and certainly I know our port staff was well intended about trying to have economic impact and and make our port successful. So. I can't speak to lessons learned because I wasn't, there at the beginning. But I would say in a general sense, not just at the port, but with any leases that we sign in this administration, we try to put as many checks and balances in place to make sure that activity is, that things are moving. And this is one of them that was in this lease that allowed us to say, well, we don't want to wait around forever to see that progress, to see economic development on the port, and so we had that option that if they don't have a CO by this time, that we could terminate that lease, and we did. So, I think I don't know that we'd say lessons learned, but I'd say we're going to move forward with our ability and to market that building and to get a tenant in there and get it improved and continue to grow our port and make it more successful.
Who does the marketing over there? You have a broker, or does Florida West play in that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends from warehouse to warehouse. Obviously, it starts for me. It always starts with our port staff, and I defer to Clark on how they are marketing individual warehouses, individual parcels. I don't want to speak to that, but yeah, I mean, look, I think any economic development is a team effort in the city. It's not just the broker who's listing it. Is I mean, the same way if I'm getting on a plane to meet people to bring businesses down here, hey, we market a port, we market industrial parks, we market. I think if you were to talk to PEDC in Florida West, I think that they would say that this is an all hands on deck kind of thing. We always want to, whatever assets that we have that can help make our community more vibrant and make it more successful, create more jobs. I think that's all of our role to play. So, I would think, Amy Miller could speak to it certainly way better than I could, but I would think that every time we've, had a port lease, or most times, it's not just someone knocking on the port's door. It's a collaborative effort from, hearing about or us going out and recruiting someone to be there, and so, it's not as easy as just waiting around. I think we get proactive, and we've done that. So, I'm looking forward to what the future is of the port. There's a lot of exciting things between pickleball, American Magic. We've got a lot of exciting things going at the port, and I'm really excited for the future. Yeah.
Mayor, there was a story going circulating last week that involved some of the land, the Main Street sewage treatment plant. How does that impact them at the park? Or do they have the funds to do two projects?
Yeah, that remains to be seen. As Inspire notified the city, several months ago that they couldn't make the numbers pencil out on what had been negotiated, and I do know they have control of for a nominal amount, maybe $3,000 a month or so until August. They have control of parcels 4 and 5. I know, I've talked with Andrew Rothfeder. I know that they're interested in having a conversation about what the future holds, but again, they've also notified us that what had been negotiated isn't going to work for them. So in a lot of ways, we're a little bit back to square one. But they have control of the property. We'll certainly hear them out on what what they see, whether that's walking away from it, whether that's, proposing something else. I don't know the answer to that, but I think the next step for us as the city is they right now they control the property. So let's hear from them what they want to do, and if that still aligns with our vision as a city of what makes sense at 4 and 5, then we can entertain that, and if not, we'll progress forward from there. I would imagine if we can't come to that agreement, they're not going to probably want to hold the rights to the property for very long. So I think we're due for a conversation, I would say, about 4 and 5, given the fact that they're moving ahead with something across the street. I imagine they'll want to have exactly the conversation you're mentioning about what's the cohesive plan in terms of what they're trying to do. Yeah.
Mayor, the MOUs with the youth sports leagues, is it fair to say that the council vote on your proposal pretty much wiped the slate clean for existing MOUs? And if so, did you forgive past debts to the city in that process?
So first, our intent, as we said Thursday, our intent is, someone using our field, someone using our facility, is for us to eliminate ambiguity and have real clarity on the direction that we're moving forward. I still consider the MOUs that we have in place imperfect, meaning they're not exactly the way, this was really our first step, was to say, let's not have leagues using our fields that we don't have a contact phone number or let's make sure that we've got, our ducks in a row, that we all have a general agreement on how to move forward. But what we charge, $10 a player, well, we may modify that. Different sports are going to treat it differently. Some sports, it might make sense as a percentage. I would like to see that kids in the city of Pensacola, that we motivate these leagues to recruit more kids from the city by they pay less per head for a kid that lives in the city versus one that doesn't, right? That makes a lot of logical sense to create value of living in the city. So this was step one. We had a robust meeting, Parks and Rec, myself, with these operators, and said, hey, let's get a clean canvas here of an understanding. And once we have that, we'll take another year or so to modify these, so they won't all remain exactly the same. They're pretty much the same now amongst different leagues. But again, some seasons are shorter. So a league might say, well, wait, why am my league? I'm only on the field half as much as this other sport. Why are we paying the same per head? There's a lot of nuance that's going to go into how these should be crafted based on. If you have a sport that beats up the field a little bit more or has more volume, more kids on it, then that's something that we have to consider. So the way I look at this is, there's no intent, or it would be impossible for the city of Pensacola to be charging these leagues what it takes to maintain these fields, right? This is a subsidy. The same way if we were running our own leagues, it would be a subsidy. This is not a profit-making venture for us, but it brings so much to our community to have youth sports. It's something I've played my entire life, is very important to me. And so if we've got these operators, these mothers and fathers and volunteers out here, helping us run these leagues, I'm very, very appreciative of that. It's not an easy thing to do, and so we will try to find that happy medium as best we can to make sure that these leagues are held accountable to rules and to helping us at least offset some of that cost, but also fully understanding that they bring value to us too. It's not just how accountable can we make them. They are doing work that helps enhance our community, helps enhance the living experience for the youth in our community. So we're working on it. It still is, I would say, even with the MOUs, it still is a work in progress. But we're in a better position today than we were yesterday in this
topic. So the idea of wiping the financial slate clean is sort of a gambit, right? You haven't actually done that. The city has.
I have not had any. I would have to talk to our Parks and Rec department about where we are with balances previously. What I'll tell you philosophically for me is, in my mind, we're only moving forward from here. I expect the same way you should expect the city to do what they say they're going to do. I expect people with MOUs to do what they say they're going to do. Now, there's a human element to everything, right? I mean, one of the conversations has been, well, one league might have a significant amount of low income, underserved kids that might be on scholarship. So should the league be paying $10 a player for that? The same way that a league that may not have as many kids on scholarship. So those are those nuanced things. So that's why I say there's a human element to everything, and we should consider and entertain all of that. So I have not had any direct conversation about unpaid balances of previous MOUs or anything like that. My focus really has been on let's get the canvas clean. Let's make sure that we all know which way we're going and continue to approve upon what those agreements are.
So you are in the negotiation phase on these new MOUs, a year out, you said?
Yeah, I mean, we're not holding it to 12 months because remember, here's why this is so difficult. If it was easy, we probably would already have done it. This has been why it's difficult is all these leagues start at different times. They're different sizes. They charge different amounts, and so I give credit to our Parks and Rec department to get everybody in the room. I don't know when the last time that's happened. All of these different operators at once. Some leagues are on now. Some don't start in 6 months from now, and so. There's even as we negotiate these moving forward, there's not I would love to say, well, all of them are going to be negotiated on July 1st. Well, some might be playing, some might not be anywhere near playing. So it is difficult, the carousel of all of these different things happening. It's a great thing that we have all of this activity at our parks, but it makes it a little complex. So that's why I don't think that the next phase of this is going to be that we're going to roll out several MOUs all at the same time. As these start to come up and as we negotiate these with each league, we want them to be successful. This is not a gotcha for us. This is not a look. At the end of the day, $10 a player or whatever this becomes, this is not a money making venture for the city of Pensacola. We want these leagues to help us offset some of our costs for maintaining the fields that they use, and we want them to be successful, and we want them to enrich the lives of the kids who live here. So that's where we're at with it, and so we're
over the weekend. That's the biggest buzz noise that we've heard. Neighborhood against neighborhood, sort of beggar your neighbor, one league against another league, one league. I mean, it has created a lot of buzz out there. But mostly the buzz is the city's trying to get this on an even keel, but that league over there still owes the city a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we want to pay ours, but they're not paying theirs.
Well, look, I think the change that we have proposed and continue to go through, I think that's going to be a natural consequence, is to say, hey, when things haven't been as formalized before, there's ambiguity, and that's why ambiguity is 80% of failure, as they say. So we're trying to eliminate ambiguity in this process, get everybody on the same page, and then we can work with the human element. We can work with the nuance of what makes sense in each one of these for each league. But as I said, thanks to our Parks and Rec department and these leagues, the operators of these leagues coming to the table with us, we're in a better place now than we were. And so we'll continue. Our job's not done in that front. We'll continue to negotiate with these leagues. And as I said, in no way have I would have to speak to our Parks and Rec department about where we stand with past balances. I don't want to make it sound like we're saying that, if there's money owed that we all agreed to, that we've made a decision one way or the other on that. I'd have to get with them. But as I said, I'm focused on moving forward, looking ahead and saying we're in a better place than we are now, and let's just make sure we have an understanding with all these leagues about what our expectations are and what their expectations are. Anything else?
Real quick,
Yeah.
Any update on that Forest Park?
Mirror Flores Park? Yeah, so our meeting, I believe, Casey just walked out, I think it's May 19th. I believe is our next meeting. We'll get that out to you. And just for perspective, also remember, we've got our technical experts hard at work on, it's May 19th. Yeah, May 19th is our next meeting of our community group on that. But as we said, we didn't want this group to meet just to meet. There is a lot to do on this. And so even though the community meetings are one in February, one in May. The goal was to have those meetings when they had something to move on or something to decide on, that they were going to be intermittent. So just because there's been a long stretch between the community meetings doesn't mean that there aren't folks hard at work on the technical side trying to get us as much information as we can. And it's a good reminder. I mean, we still are getting feedback, have been getting feedback and asking for feedback from the public at cityofpensacola.com/Mira Flores. So you can submit anything that you may know about the park, any history, any of that stuff. That process still is ongoing. So even though these meetings are few and far between, that doesn't mean we're resting on continuing to learn and investigate as much as we can about the park itself. Anything else? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.